Hello, everyone, and greetings. It's good to see you guys. I'm getting to fill in for Alex. She does way more lives than I do on social media, but here I am getting to do a fun day with you guys. And I just wanted to let you know that we're going to be taking a little journey to a wonderful museum in the Ozarks, and I think you're going to be quite surprised by this. So, Crystal Bridges, the Museum of American Art, is located in Bentonville, Arkansas. It was created and established and put together by Mrs. Walton. Yes, that's the Walmart family. It's a beautiful facility. You're going to get to see that as well. But they have got an exhibition celebrating America's 250. And in this exhibition, quilts prominently feature a role. And that is really where we're going to be talking today. We're going to be speaking with one of the museum employees, a wonderful curator. She was absolutely delightful. So Hugo and I had the great opportunity to go and visit. I've been to Crystal Bridges several times, but we made a special trip just to get these interviews, to show you the exhibition, put together an interview video for you, and just have a great time seeing what's going on. I have to tell you, if you have not been to Crystal Bridges, you definitely need to put it on your bucket list. It is amazing. It is breathtaking. Take the time to enjoy not only the museum, but the surrounding grounds with hiking paths. There's a Frank Lloyd Wright house that was disassembled and moved to be right there on the campus. And I would be interested to know if any of you have been. If you've been, chime in the comments and say, yes, give your stamp of approval. People will then understand that it is a real, true, amazing destination. One of the finest museums in the world. It is a special, amazing museum, but it's not that old, so not everybody knows about it, like Smithsonian, which is a household world, or the Louvre. But Crystal Bridges is absolutely stunning and amazing, so I urge you to definitely check it out and put it on your list. So without really further ado, I'm going to pop right into this interview that I did. And there's two people that you're going to meet, and you definitely want to stick with it, because at the end, you're going to see how quilters are making such an impact. I think it's going to touch your heart as well. And I'm really excited to see such a prominent museum doing such amazing things to really not only support art, but also in this case, supports quilting. So take a look.
Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art is located in Bentonville, Arkansas, and it consists of both an art museum and an arboretum, a huge campus of natural landscapes. So the goal of Crystal Bridges is to bring stories of American art across media and across time in this rich historical and contemporary collection to people in Arkansas and the surrounding states, as well as visitors nationally and internationally, and also to connect art with nature. Through the galleries, you'll see moments when, through windows and architectural features, the works of art inside, the landscape outside, and the building around them are connected. So that's part of the philosophy of defining a kind of new museum experience. And the goal is really to tell multiple and diverse stories of American art through a collection that we're continuing to grow. And the museum was founded in 2011 by Alice Walton. The permanent collection is always free. The exhibition we're sitting in is America 250 Common Threads, and this is Crystal Bridges' response to the moment of 2026 and the semi-quincentennial, or 250th, of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. We wanted to create a special exhibition to commemorate this moment and think about how exhibition making and art making have always been at the center of Americans marking the 100th, the 200th, and now the 250th. The reason that quilts feature so prominently in this exhibition is that we're really interested in objects in relation to memory, how objects can function as historical documents, and quilts serve all those purposes, as well as being a really active through line that we can trace through these 2 centuries of American art. We have quilters who are volunteers from local quilt guilds sewing live in the galleries during almost every hour that we're open. So that is this active live core of an exhibition that spans paintings, whirligigs, wood carvings, archival documents, as well as quilts, historic and contemporary. The reason that quilts feature so prominently in this exhibition is in part because we worked closely with the American Folk Art Museum on a lot of the loans in the exhibition, and so we drew from this national collection from really the 1840s to the present to think about different traditions of quilting that give us a real regional range in thinking about who is an American artist, as well as allow us to bring women's stories into a historical framework that can often get centered on founding fathers and men circa the 18th century. I think many of our visitors come in thinking of as perhaps neutral or domestic or kind of closed away in people's home spaces, and showing how that has always been a very public-facing art form for some makers, and has always been politically engaged. So another goal of the exhibition is to highlight different modes of civic engagement, from literally voting to sewing, and that's an early example of that kind of activity. The goal of the exhibition was not to do a deep dive in the moment of the Revolutionary War, but to think about its reverberations and concepts of nation and national history into the future. And in doing that, we wanted to mobilize women artists, artists of color, artists who maybe didn't professionally associate with academic art, maybe didn't call themselves artists in their lifetime, but are essential to the story of American art. And so quilts, in addition to many types of art that falls within the realm of folk art and folklore studies, as well as vernacular or self-taught art, all these categories that are really porous and in some ways flow into each other, those are central in addition to the kinds of paintings you might expect to see in an America 250 exhibition. So there's an incredible Baltimore album quilt in a section of the exhibition called Revolutionary Documents that considers how we know history, what archives and documents we look to, from an engraving of the Declaration of Independence and manuscripts to this Baltimore album quilt made by a family whose names we don't know around Baltimore in the 1840s or the 1850s. It has this incredible State House building in the center that may be the US Capitol, the Maryland State House, reflects this kind of official neoclassical governmental architecture translated into the language of red and pink applique in the central square. We wanted to focus on, to highlight a Baltimore album quilt because we're thinking about objects of material culture that are documents with many signatories, much like the Declaration of Independence. So this act of many women in Maryland making squares for show, bringing them together into a communal statement, we're drawing a parallel with this act of signing a political document, and we really wanted to showcase how quilts function as sort of statements and enter the realm of politics. That album quilt is important also because it's not made for a bed, it's made for show. The exhibition begins before the American Revolution in the second half of the 18th century, but it doesn't stay there. It walks us through all these moments that have inflected how we remember 1776, and one key moment for us as curators is the Civil War. So we want to think about the centennial of the United States happening in 1876, America 100, happens in the midst of Reconstruction, happens after this moment when it's unclear if the Republic will continue. And so many of the things that we understand about the American Revolution and remember is, in my opinion, filtered through the Civil War, through the discussions that happen around what America means in the 1860s. And one of the quilts that work for us is this object on loan from Historic Arkansas Museum called the Secession Quilt, made by a woman named Mary G. McPherson outside of Little Rock in West Point, Arkansas. She made it in the early 1860s for a Confederate raffle with the intention to sell it to raise money for the Confederacy. And that quilt is a difficult object. It's an object that we have given a great deal of care to exhibiting and labeling in a very conscious way, because it depicts on the quilt top a an early version of the Confederate flag, not the one that we know, but one that maybe brings people in without them recognizing that this is a Confederate object. And then upon reading the label, they understand the complexity of the stars and stripes of the American flag, the many different agendas toward which they've been put. So the secession quilt by Mary McPherson was important to include also because we wanted to understand quilting as a political act, quilting as something that is not necessarily, doesn't always bring everyone together, that it's not this neutral story of American unity, but it also helps us tell all these complex histories of the concept of the United States being contested and threatened and then reshaped from the Civil War into Reconstruction. There's a quilt by Carla Edwards made in 2017 in part in response to the 2016 election. She calls it Bonfire, and it's this quilt top that is stitched in bars from nylon American flags, commercially produced. She likes to buy them at places like Walmart because she wants to work with these flags that people have on their porches that are really a part of everyday life. And she takes them, hand dyes them, bleaches them in these unpredictable patterns that distort the original dye. She works mainly with the stripes, not the stars, because she wants you to approach this quilt top, not quite understand that you're looking at remade American flags, and to draw people in to what can be a kind of provocative act of reassembling the flag, taking it apart. She ensures that the quilt is hung so the flags kind of drape on the floor. So playing with the flag protocols and messing them up, but in service of thinking about visual literacy of these national symbols like the American flag that we all have in our day-to-day lives, and how we can scramble them and make new symbols. So that is really her goal, is to kind of ask, how much does it take to recognize an American flag? What does it mean when you see one? And one of these sections of the exhibition, National Symbols, uses that quilt to kind of parse what American flags mean to different people, that they can be symbols of celebration, symbols of violence, anything in between. The quilt behind me is perhaps my favorite quilt in the exhibition. It's made by a G. Knappenberger, who signs her name in huge block letters twice, who lived on a farm some tens of miles outside Philadelphia. We can speculate she plausibly visited this giant World's Fair scale event that was the Philadelphia Centennial Exhibition, attended by almost 10 million people, a quarter of the US population at a time. Some people consider it the first American World's Fair, and she attended, but she maybe brought back souvenir books, other objects. More important than that was this quilt that she made where she places the letters of her name on par with, even bigger than, the letters for Centennial. And so this object is important to me because it suggests that every time someone makes a work for America 100, America 200, America 250, it is as much about the nation as about this personal history and who she was, documenting her life. And then it has this incredible Pennsylvania German series of symmetrical hearts and birds and this pink rushed effect. So it is materially a pretty striking and distinctive quilt in the exhibition. The Quilters in Residence project is the core engagement within the exhibition America 250. And in this project, we have partnered with 5 guilds in Northwest Arkansas, Bella Vista Calico Cut-Ups, Dogwood Quilters Guild, Pieces and Patches, the Northwest Arkansas Modern Quilt Guild, and QUILT, Quilters United and Learning Together in Springdale. So these 5 amazing guilds have come together with volunteers who are in the galleries sewing, piecing, and quilting during practically every hour that the exhibition is open. The quilt behind me is called Melanin Activation by the artist Basil Kincaid. He made it from 2020 to 2022. We purchased it from the artist. He's from St. Louis, but many of the women in his family were quilting in Arkansas. When working in St. Louis, he had a vision of his grandmother and was called to begin quilting. So he now has a studio in Accra in Ghana, where he works with a team of sewers and sewists to make these large-scale figural quilts that incorporate sequins, fabrics from Nigeria and Ghana, and the special kind of sparkly lace that is made there as well. So he's a quilter who combines lots of different materials. When he speaks about the quilt Melanin Activation, he was interested in his experience first being in West Africa and feeling activated by the sun and by this environment. And so it's partly about the importance of sunlight and color, the way these things are kind of drawn to his artistic practice, and the relationships between places, between St. Louis and Ghana and the United States and West Africa. Yeah, so this quilt we felt was important to include in this culminating gallery of the exhibition, the titular section, Common Threads, because it incorporates so many different historical and contemporary quilting practices. So the kind of patchwork that Basil is interested in, which combines even his own clothes, and that gesture connects him to a lot of Black Southern quilters in the United States, to this Gee's Bend quilt by Loretta Petway Bennett that I can see across the gallery and is in dialogue with Basil's quilt. So we wanted to bring that quilting tradition to the fore and then consider how he's reinterpreting it and introducing figural elements and applique in this kind of melange of lots of different practices.
Okay. Crystal Bridges reached out to different various quilting groups in Northwest Arkansas with the opportunity to come and quilt. They had kind of a wish list of what they wanted to do with this program. And then they invited the quilters to come in and brainstorm with them. And our guild, when I got the email, I was president at the time and I could not answer the email fast enough.
When we began the Quilters in Residence project, we were thinking about the creation of quilt kits that we could send to classrooms, and who would pick the materials, think about the prompt, what kids would do with the blocks, and we turned to Basil as this kind of consulting artist who came up with the idea of mapping squares to regions, so giving different regions different colors. And then he also was really interested in the simplicity and efficacy of fabric marker as what kids would use to draw on the squares. And he designed the prompt, which asked kids to think about symbols, but also about how abstraction can work in a quilt and can help them communicate.
The Quilters in Residence program contains over 150 quilters that have volunteered. They spend 4 hours in a shift. They had worked with Basil Kincaid as the artist to put kind of the project together. So each kid is putting their design on the block, whatever they want to share. It's their little story, and it's a 6-inch block. And then these are coming in from different parts of the Arkansas. And they were asked in the program to share their thoughts, hopes, or memories of America. The first one that came back that I read was from an 8-year-old, and he said, "I hope we don't go into World War III." And this is before the conflict of what's happening today in Iran. And so then the next two I looked at were same schoolmates. One was 13, one was 14, two young men. And one said, "I love American parks because they're much safer than Central America where I was raised." His schoolmate said, "I hope that America becomes less violent and more equality." And so valid viewpoints from the same school, same classmates, just two different backgrounds. The other one that really struck me was a young lady, and her block is two young girls on the block. And she said, "I never felt so free until I met my community of queers." Very valid. And anyone, when you meet your community of people, whatever that might be, gives you that sense of freeing. And I thought it was very much a statement. A lot of the blocks came back with religious symbols. We're in the Bible Belt. And so they made a quilt with just a lot of the crosses and different angels and different things that came back on the blocks from the kids. There's hope in all of these. Probably the one that I saw just this week was a crack on the block with a flower growing out of it. And the young man said, "I hope we can mend the political divide that we have in our country right now." So they're very politically, civically minded of what's going on. It's really been exciting to read the papers come back and see how they graphically put them together. But the overall feeling is they want a better America. They have hopes for just things improving in the world. So their energy, their hope, and just how civic and politically aware they are of what's going on in the world has been amazing. What an exciting opportunity to share our art and craft in a museum, and it's exposing a ton of young people to quilting in the state of Arkansas.
Well, how about that, everybody? And you still have more than a month to get to the museum to see this exhibit. It closes July 27. I am so honored as a quilter that Crystal Bridges would put this forward to embrace quilting and help tell America's story by quilts, both traditional, contemporary, and going through that. And then this entire project, this residential project where the quilters are there. Can you imagine? I know that some of you may have experienced being at the North Pole mailbox where the letters are dropped in and the letters from kids are read and they're pouring out their heart to Santa. It's kind of the same thing. These school kids have been given a quilt block and said, express yourselves. And I think the fact that they've embraced it so strongly, so powerfully, and they've done everything from lighthearted to poignant, right? Expressing their joys, their fears, their celebrations, and what our country means to them, and so many different things. What an amazing idea. What a wonderful concept that is. And I'm just really, really excited. I have to give a shout out to Miss Ella. Thank you so much for your wonderful explanation of the exhibit. Emma, you were in the background giving us all the encouragement as well. Shout out to you. And Linda, you and all the quilters there in Arkansas that have done so much, want to say thank you to you guys for the dedication to come and spend pretty much every day just there sewing and being a part of a live exhibition right there in that special exhibit. So the museum is free, you guys. It is free all the time. Special exhibit does require a ticket. So the 250th is certainly not expensive to go see, but you should go and put that on your list. Any comments? I'm looking for any questions, any things that might pop in before I say goodbye. I just wanted to share this with you guys. It's a wonderful opportunity. It really is. And I'm really, really proud of the quilts. I know that the quilts, because this was kind of targeted in Arkansas, but the different regions had different colors. So the quilts could be put together in different colors. And whenever you see those colors, you knew what region of Arkansas you were from. I think that's a really cool thing as well. So Miss Gloria, it's good to see you. Oh my gosh, it's great to see you. Bunch of you guys, I see some familiar names. It's really great. I see that Ellen has said, has it started yet? Nothing coming up on YouTube, but yes, it is. It's going. There might have been a technical glitch. I don't know all of that part of it, but if it's not there on YouTube, pop over to Facebook. If you don't use Facebook, we'll certainly have this posted on YouTube. If it didn't make it up there live, that's unfortunate and sure sorry to hear about that. All right, I'm going to say goodbye, you guys. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Crystal Bridges for allowing me to come and visit with you guys. It's really a pleasure to start that relationship, and I hope that we get to do many more things together in the future. So thank you so very much. Thank you.